What is up, guys? NYKF31 here. Bring you another Madden 25 video. This is part 2 of my series where I'm talking about, well, in part 1 I talked about the West Coast offense, and in this one I will be talking about the other West Coast offense, the Don Coryell, Air Coryell philosophy or system, however you want to call it. And in looking for a playbook to use, I figured, why not start out with the playbook of Don Coryell's former offensive coordinator, Joe Gibbs, the great Joe Gibbs. Why not start out with Joe Gibbs's mentor? Gibbs ran this system or his version of this system to great success with the Washington Redskins, winning 3 Super Bowls. And really, with comparing and contrasting it to the West Coast offense of Bill Walsh and how the West Coast has evolved over the years, which I went into in my previous video, let's start out with that. The obvious similarity is that the Air Coryell system introduced a whole slew of offensive innovation into the game that we still see in today's game, obviously, as the West Coast and Air Coryell offense has produced high-powered hybrids like the New Orleans Saints, the greatest show on turf Rams, the Brian Billick offensive coordinated Minnesota Vikings of Randy Moss's rookie year. Randy Moss, Randall Cunningham, Robert Smith, Chris Carter, that put up insane offensive numbers, and also teams that ran it with a heavy power run influence, such as the Dallas Cowboys of the Jimmy Johnson era, coordinated by Norv Turner. And Norv Turner, of course, brought his strain of the Air Coryell system to the San Diego Chargers with Danian Tomlinson, Phillip Rivers, Antonio Gates, Vincent Jackson, and Joe Gibbs, of course, when he had John Riggins, the Hogs, QBs like Theismann, Mark Rippon, even Jay Strader slung it around, as well as Doug Williams. In my view, the structures of the two offenses are the main differences. The West Coast offense is, as far as the passing game is concerned, is based on a real precise relationship between the QB's mechanics and his technique and the wide receivers, and using the passing game as an extension of the running game. The route tree isn't nearly as aggressive in the West Coast, a classic West Coast scheme. And also the running game in the West Coast is more trap, misdirection, sweep, draws, while the Air Coryell system features a much more aggressive route tree, especially off of play action. Those shots off of play action come off of power run action. Even in Don Coryell's heyday, the offense was at its best when he had Chuck Muncie as that power runner and would run play action vertical seam concepts to Winslow, Charlie Joyner, John Jefferson, Wes Chandler, whoever it may have been that he had as his vertical targets. In the West Coast offense, you place a premium on efficiency and high completion percentage. You want at least, bare minimum, at the very worst, 60%. You had guys like Montana and Steve Young completing close to 70% of their passes in their prime. But you want completion percentage in that 65 to 60% range. In the Air Coryell system, it's all about yards per attempt. You want that ball humming downfield. You want that strong-armed, cannon of a QB delivering those strikes off a 5 and 7 step drop in play action. If you want to have a little vision in your mind as far as what the Air Coryell system is all about, think Aikman to Irvin and how they made a living off of the bang post concept. You had Irvin running a skinny or deep post, with Alvin Harper running a backside dig, Novacek running a crosser with Moose Johnston either circling out of the backfield as an outlet or to the flat. When that sucker was in rhythm, it was damn near uncoverable. They made a living off of that concept. Don Coryell also introduced choice concepts off of the vertical seams. One or more receivers out of the verticals concepts would have choice reads that they would make on the fly. Indianapolis Colts in the Peyton Manning heyday featured that a lot, along with the levels divide concept. Vertical choice routes by either a slot tight end and a wide receiver, with a levels concept being run backside. So while the Coryell system did believe in vertical shreddage, Mike Martz's version of it was probably the closest to the original. There's a definite emphasis on the downhill power running game, while the West Coast views the running game, again, traditionally. I mean, there's variations of that. The Houston Texans, when they were, actually somewhat good, were more of a running West Coast offense. But traditionally, the West Coast offense used the running game as the closer after they scored 35 points, forcing the defense to chase around all kinds of receiving options. This play right here does a great job at demonstrating in-game the Coryell philosophy. You see the choice concept by the circle receiver, the deep post by Square, and Forte with that deep dig. And here again, I wanted to snap the deep comeback, but he only brought a two-man rush, dropped everyone back, and I missed the check down. But those two play calls you saw there kind of captures what the Coryell system is about. The next game I'm going to show after this, I have two games in one here. I'll be running the Jimmy Johnson playbook and running that with the Ravens. You'll see many of the same concepts there, but you'll also see it out of different formation groupings. Obviously, the Gibbs playbook has a lot of single back, compressed, and jumbo type of sets, as also from out of the I formations as well. The Jimmy Johnson playbook has a couple of shotgun sets, a little bit more modern as far as the formation packages are concerned, and the Vermeil playbook is basically a combination of the Mike Martz and what Vermeil was running when he was with the KC Chiefs. This is game number 2. I'm using the Baltimore Ravens going up against, surprise, the 49ers, and I'm using the Jimmy Johnson playbook in this one, as I stated a little bit earlier. These are the last 2 Madden 25 games that you will see. Here's another Air Coryell staple, the deep comeback, twin deep comebacks with the tight end option route. I don't like what's going on with the tight end, so look, I snap off the deep comeback. Don't quite get it on inbounds. Against man coverage, you want to time that sucker right when that icon comes on and lead pass it. You can either do a couple of things versus man coverage. You can lead pass it toward the sideline. You can also treat it like a back shoulder throw by pass leading it down. Now, in the first game, I talked more about the offense in a historical perspective. Who's running this type of scheme now? Who has been inspired by these concepts the most heavily in the current day NFL? As I've mentioned several times before, the Sean Payton Gulf Coast offense is kind of like in my opinion, the ideal marriage between the West Coast and the Air Coryell philosophies. The Dallas Cowboys, very heavily inspired by the Air Coryell system. Atlanta Falcons, San Diego Chargers, any team that has Norv Turner on their coaching staff. The Vikings, you'll see that in full effect. They have a lot of ingredients that are working in their favor. They have AP, of course. They have some promising, receiving threats. And I think you'll be seeing Teddy Bridgewater sooner rather than later. Mark Trestman in Chicago, he does some very aggressive things in the passing game, drawing from his CFL experience, where having an aggressive passing game is pretty much a necessity in a 3-down league. And there are several others. Those are just some of the ones that come off the top of my head. I'm really curious to see what the New York Giants offense is going to look like this year. They bring in Ben McAdoo off of Mike McCarthy's staff, and that's essentially what they're going to be installing. I believe McCarthy skews more towards the West Coast, but they'll certainly stretch the field vertically. They're not a dink and dunk offense by any stretch of the imagination. Aaron Rodgers' yards per attempt is always right up there. But it's going to be a definite change for the Giants, going from Kevin Gilbride to more of that hybrid West Coast vertical offense. Gilbride is a run and shoot guy. A lot of moving parts on the fly for the Giants offense, and they're going to be transitioning to a style or to a system that is much more regimented. And that's going to take time. I can see the Giants starting out really slow the first 3 to 4 weeks of the season, and then really picking up steam. And that's assuming that they can pass protect, and also if they can develop a receiver outside of Cruz. I mean, Odell Beckham has done nothing. He's barely played. And they also have to find a way to run the ball at least a little bit. And I'll go into stuff like that more when I do my little college football and NFL season preview sometime this coming week. Wow. That was funky looking. That was like half animation pop, half very good catch. But this guy that I'm playing right here, Niners users tend to fall into one of two categories. Category 1 is the super glitchy. Category number 2 is the ultra conservative and vanilla. This guy is the latter, and this kind of guy is a kind of person who is basically relying on the Niners' advantages in block shedding, hit power, impact blocking. He's looking for those things to basically carry the game for him. And the Niners are so loaded that you can get away with doing that. Like, I only have 6 points as of right now, even though I was moving the ball pretty well. But the Niners are just always a team that presents the opportunity to force fumbles with big hits, jar passes loose over the middle, which get deflected to somebody else for an INT. You know, all that kind of stuff that you've seen playing against the Niners a million times this year. On offense, you know, anytime someone goes to buck sweep or pistol power on 3rd and 10, that pretty much tells you all you need to know. And right there, big hit. I was fortunate to hang on to that. When I play the Niners, I do a lot of covering up of the ball. But I got to get going. I got to score. So I bust the play action double post, and there it is. Mr. Pitta. He takes his own guy out of the play on the switch and flops to the ground, and I pick up a block, and he's gone. And here he finally solves the Tampa 2 riddle and busts out the 4 verts out of trips, and now I got to adjust and change up my looks here, because I've been able to get away with doing that for pretty much the entire game as he gets a press break. So now I'm back moving the ball, and I eventually get sick and tired of Ray Rice, and I go to Pierce, and he gets the power running game going for me a little bit. And here, yes, I go for it on 4th and 8. It's my last Madden 25 game of the year. I don't care. I'm going to go for it on 4th down in an online rank game for once in my life. And you see all these big hits, jeez. And there's Pierce again doing some good things. I'm just going to ride the hot hand. He can rumble a little bit. Ravens are an interesting team, and here I'm looking to put this game away. Don't want to give them the chance to get the ball back, so I'm going to go with this deep dig concept here. I get man coverage. He doesn't want to shade the routes inside or out, so that'll ice it. You got to shade that inside in order to take that away, because it gets a good release off the line of scrimmage. General rule of thumb I like to follow: I shade the wide side receiver outside, I shade the boundary receiver inside. If you notice how I play, I rarely give up out routes, and that's the reason why. I always shade the wide side of the field to the receivers outside, and I'll account for the middle myself or with a hot adjustment somewhere else. So there we go. That's my little primer on the Air Coryell system, the other West Coast offense. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will continue to provide more content like this going into Madden 15. Take care. Peace.